I'm going to be discussing something that I've only kind of briefly touched on social media before. I haven't really done a deep dive into it, but it's a conversation I think a lot of us need to have more often. Recently, I'm sure that a lot of you have seen these videos that are resurfacing of how people like Britney Spears were treated back in the day, Lindsay Lohan, Paris Hilton, all of these people just getting treated terribly by late show hosts, especially David Letterman, and not even just that, just the way they're treated by paparazzi. And this wasn't ever an isolated incident. It's not a one and done where, one celebrity just happened to have a hard time and after that everything was hunky-dory. Instead, it's still happening today. It really always has happened, and I'm afraid it always will happen. And the fact that even people like influencers on TikTok and YouTube and stuff are getting that weird negative celebrity treatment where they're treated horribly or the paparazzi tries to get them on an off day. I mean, like this, I'm sorry if I get her name wrong, Addison, I think, on TikTok. Sorry, I'm like brand new to TikTok, so I'm bad at that stuff, but I think her name's Addison, who like may or may not have been cheated on by her boyfriend, and that paparazzo who was following her around, deliberately making her cry, and then going up to her boyfriend or ex-boyfriend, I'm really not sure, I'm so sorry, boyfriend or ex-boyfriend, and being like, oh, so she seems pretty torn up, like she was crying in the car. And it's like, what did you get out of that exactly? And what did you get out of that is what I want to talk about tonight, because in watching some of these old pieces of footage that are resurfacing about, these celebrities who were treated badly in the past, and seeing all of the recent news on YouTubers and TikTok influencers all being treated badly by the press and stuff, I was like, why is it that people not just enjoy hating celebrities and influencers, why do they hate them at all? It's always been something really strange to me. Now, I, just like anybody else in the world, have been, of course, accused in the past of hating someone just because I didn't like a certain band, or I wasn't interested in a certain actor because of the types of movies or TV that they were in. And that was absolutely not true. And I would try to explain that. And, it depends on whoever you're talking to at the time, whether that person wants to listen to you or not. But there are people who do legitimately hate certain celebrities or certain influencers to a degree that they actually take pleasure in seeing those people suffer, whether they are just upset and having a bad day, or whether they end up having some kind of karma dished out to them. It doesn't seem to matter what kind of difficulties they're going through, as long as they're going through something. And you see proof of this with things like reality TV. Everybody knows that stuff is set up, but it's set up in a way that these actual real human beings are going to become emotionally vulnerable. They're going to be hurt. They're going to be stressed out and anxious. Their mental health might go awry. And people eat it up. People sit there watching endless hours of it and enjoying the people on these reality shows that they don't like as much going downhill. And even on a smaller scale, things like drama channels. Now, I don't think that drama channels shouldn't exist at all, just like I don't think YouTube news and stuff shouldn't exist at all. I think it's good to talk about current events on the platform you're currently on, and I think it's also good to hold people accountable when they deserve to be held accountable. However, that isn't where some of these channels stop. Some of them are punching out multiple videos per day over every little thing someone does wrong, trying to basically chuck whoever they don't like under the bus, or even if it's a bad person, just delighting in watching them fall from grace. And I'm like, when I see a celebrity or an influencer whom maybe I liked in the past, or at least I was impartial about them in the past, get completely canceled or completely fall from grace and lose basically everything, I don't take pleasure in that. I may be able to admit to myself that they deserve it and that maybe being deplatformed or losing out on something might help them learn from whatever it is that they are doing that is wrong. But I can't enjoy seeing it because that is still another human being who's going through a hard time. And it's kind of almost like a two wrongs don't make a right situation where I'm like, punishment should serve the crime, and that's fine, but I don't have to enjoy it. It's kind of like this is a huge leap, but just to try to like help you understand, it's like the death penalty. I don't like the death penalty for my own personal reasons, but I know that it does still exist in many countries and in certain US states. And if there was someone who was completely evil, who had like hurt children and like killed people and just vile, disgusting ways after torturing them for hours and stuff, like maybe they do deserve that punishment. Maybe they did deserve to sit there and rot in a cell year after year thinking about what they did, and maybe they deserve to leave now and, have whatever you think happens after they die happen to them. That does not mean, however, that if I was told to sit in and watch the execution, that I would be sitting there holding a bag of popcorn and enjoying it. Because I know that there's still suffering, like that suffering was bred from different suffering, and the suffering just continues in this endless cycle. And that is not something that I enjoy seeing for anybody. So back to the question at hand, why do people hate celebrities and influencers? How can you hate someone you've never met, you've never had like a lot of conversations with, to a point where you can be on like a friendly basis, something other than just, oh, they retweeted me 3 times, hooray, like actual, some kind of like friendship or, associate type relationship with them. Someone that has never met you and is not even aware of your existence. If your paths will never cross, is it really worth your time to hate them? Because think of what hate does to you. Hate makes you feel terrible. If you are around someone you absolutely hate, you've got anxiety, your heart's probably palpitating, you feel really uncomfortable because you don't want to be around that person because of how they make you feel. None of it's good, none of it's fun. And even after you are physically apart from that person that you hate, those feelings persist anyway. They might not be completely constant, but they'll gnaw at you when you're just lying in bed and trying to fall asleep and you start thinking about that interaction you had with them, or when you're just trying to get your work done and go home for the day, you are having a quiet moment at work and you start thinking about the things they did in the past that made you hate them in the first place. And again, you go back to that feeling of anxiety, that feeling of maybe even self-hatred for, allowing yourself to be put through that, which not a victim blame at all, just, an honest depiction of what it feels like in that present moment. None of that is a good feeling. And I am someone who, in my early 20s, I was just starting to get out of therapy. I was just starting to understand how to regulate my emotions and the way I reacted to things properly on my own. And when I got to like my mid-20s, I was someone who hated people. Sometimes I hated people that I had only been friends with online, and I would sit there and harbor that hate every time I thought of them, every time I saw someone who looked remotely like them, every time I came across an old message from them online someplace or something, like I would just feel that hatred and that rage again, and it never helped me in any way. It made me feel terrible in that moment. It didn't alleviate anything. And at the end of the day, that person had nothing to do with me anymore. They weren't in my life anymore. They didn't care whether or not I hated them. It had no bearing on their life whatsoever. So what was the point? And I started realizing that eventually. I was like, what reason do I have to fully hate someone who either isn't in my life or maybe never even will be in my life? That's pointless. Hating a celebrity will make you feel like crap, and they won't feel anything. They won't care. Even if they happen to see you hating them online, you're gonna be like, so what? I've got my mansion, I've got my millions. I really don't care how you feel about me. I mean, for example, I've had people accuse me of hating Lady Gaga and Taylor Swift in the past because I'm just not a fan of their music. It isn't what I listen to, isn't what I enjoy. I've tried listening to it and I just don't get them. And because I'm not interested in their music, I haven't bothered learning about them as people, like who they are behind the scenes, behind the music, if you will, because there's no point in it. Why should I get to know them as a person if I don't enjoy what they do for a living and I'm never going to be around them? And that's as far as it goes. When I hear that Taylor Swift goes through a bad breakup, I'm not like, oh yes, good, I hate her, I'm glad she's in pain. And when I heard that Lady Gaga had her dog stolen and her dog walker got shot, I wasn't like, oh, I'm loving seeing her on Twitter crying over the loss of these dogs and stuff. Like, why would I? That's terrible. Even if they weren't very good people, even if I heard that they were really nasty, I would still not enjoy hearing that they were in pain because that doesn't serve them and it doesn't serve me. And I feel like at some point, everyone needs to get to a stage in their life when they realize, like, you need to pick and choose who you hate, just like you pick and choose your battles. Sometimes, if you're cohabitating with somebody, you come to that pick and choose your battles type of situation where you're like, okay, they did something that kind of irked me. Is it just that we don't see eye to eye on everything and I can just let it go and it won't matter tomorrow? Or is it something that's going to make living with them unbearable and I need to stomp this out right now? And you have a lot of those moments, where you realize like, this really wasn't worth my time. I don't need to worry about that. Or yeah, I really need to sit down and have a discussion with this person so they don't hurt me in the future. Same thing goes with hate. I am not someone who believes that, I can police how you feel. And I don't think that everyone should just never hate anybody ever. That isn't how human beings work. That isn't how the world and the universe work. People hate each other. It just happens. But what I'm saying is, when you find yourself hating someone, especially someone you don't know, I want you to sit down and I want you to really think about why you hate them. What did they do to you personally or to someone you love personally that was so horrific you hate them? You want nothing to do with them. You almost take pleasure maybe in watching them suffer. What did they do that was so horrible it made you feel that way? And if your answer is, well, they didn't do anything to me and they didn't do anything to anyone I love, ask yourself why you hate them. Do you actually hate them as a person to a point where it is worth it to feel those terrible feelings day in and day out over this person who doesn't even care about you or potentially even know you exist? Or are you just angry that they have it really good? They don't have to worry about anything. They have a nice big house. They don't have to worry about, if my lease ends here, where do I go after this? They don't have to think about that stuff. All their monetary needs are met and maybe yours aren't. Is it maybe like an envy type thing that's actually going on? Or maybe if you don't envy any part of their lifestyle and you honestly think, nope, that looks awful, I want nothing to do with that kind of life, which is fair enough. A lot of people feel that way about celebrity status and influencer status. But then maybe it's something like you enjoy when this person is going through something difficult, not because you actually hate them, but because celebrities these days and influencers online are held to a godlike status, and watching them fall helps remind you and remind the public as a whole that they're not a god and they never were. They're a human again, just like the rest of us, just like you. So as I said, like, there are valid reasons to hate people sometimes, and I'm not going to take that away from anybody, but I just want you to really think about, especially with like celebrities and people that you don't know and you never will know, why do you hate them? Is there a valid reason, like they are just a horrible human being that is continuously doing awful things that hurt others? They never learn their lesson no matter what they go through. Or is it just that you don't see eye to eye with them, or you don't enjoy something that they do creatively, in which case, don't worry about hating them. You're not getting anything out of that, you know? And even if it is a terrible person, maybe just, ignore them, turn them on mute, blacklist their name and stuff so you don't have to deal with them. Your life will be a lot chiller once that person is out of your life completely and you don't have to think about them at all. But that's all I really wanted to say on this topic. And as always, do something that makes you happy today, no matter what anybody else says about it. And as a PS at the end of that, please watch my last video because there's a giveaway and I am going to be announcing the winner of the giveaway next week. Bye bye.